Imagine playing a game where the referee just goes home. The clock never stops. And there is absolutely no limit to how much you can lose.
Sounds terrifying.
Right. It's an environment that stays open and actively moving against you until your entire net worth is just vaporized.
Yeah.
Welcome to the stock market. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the psychology of risk, reward, and the human mind. We're leaning heavily into the insights of trading psychologist Mark Douglas.
It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. Our mission for you today is to unpack this terrifying paradox, why having, unlimited potential in any environment is actually a massive psychological trap.
Because we usually think of boundaries or limits as a negative.
Exactly.
Like a speed limit holding us back or some restriction on what we can achieve. But what if a lack of limits is actually, what if it's a cliff without a guardrail?
It's completely counterintuitive to how we're raised. Like, we spend our whole lives wanting the guardrails taken off.
We want the ceiling removed. Right, so we can reach our full potential. But when you take a human being and place them in an environment where all external limits are actually removed, human psychology doesn't soar.
No.
No, it often just collapses under its own weight.
Okay, think about a casino. If you walk onto a casino floor and sit down at a blackjack table, the environment is intensely bounded.
There are very strict physical limits.
Yeah. The house dictates the maximum bet. You have to push physical plastic chips across a felt table. You know exactly what you're risking before the dealer even touches a card.
And most importantly, when your chips are gone, the game simply stops.
You are forcibly ejected from the risk environment.
Exactly. You are purchasing a very specific, mathematically constrained experience of risk. The limit is imposed on you externally by the casino architecture, the pit boss, the rules of the game.
You don't even have to use your own discipline.
Right. You don't have to utilize any internal discipline to stop playing once your chips are gone. The environment stops you.
But then, you look at a retail trader sitting at a computer screen. The stock market is arguably the only game in the world with no beginning, no end, and absolutely no built-in limits.
It just keeps going.
It doesn't care if you've been up for 3 days or if you've lost your life savings. And that lack of boundaries is where the psychology gets really dark.
Well, if the market is completely unbounded, if a stock's price could theoretically go anywhere indefinitely, it triggers something very dangerous in the human psyche.
Like what?
Traders begin to believe that every single trade possesses the potential to fulfill their wildest dreams.
Because there's no boundary.
Right, because there's no external boundary saying, this is the absolute maximum you can make today. The mind naturally fills that void with fantasies.
Because it technically could happen. A stock could go up 1,000%.
It could. And that mere possibility creates what is known as the illusion of fulfillment.
Okay.
You stop looking at the actual data flashing on the screen, the bid, the ask, the volume, and you start looking at a yacht.
Yeah.
You start picturing a house on a hill, or that moment you get to walk into your boss's office and quit. The infinite nature of the market shifts your focus from the present reality to a fictional, idealized future.
Wait, I gotta push back on this a little.
Sure.
Isn't the dream of the big win the exact reason people get into trading in the first place? Like, nobody opens a brokerage account hoping to make a meager 2% a year.
True.
They want financial freedom. Hoping for a big win is kind of the engine of the entire financial industry. Why is that optimism suddenly a profound psychological hazard?
Dreaming of financial freedom is the motivation, sure. But in an unlimited environment, operating based on that dream is lethal.
Lethal how?
When you're fixated on the fantasy of the big win, your primary objective shifts. You are no longer managing risk. You're actively protecting a fantasy.
Oh, I see.
The unlimited nature of the market weaponizes your own hope against you. If your emotional well-being is tied to the idea that this specific trade is your ticket to a new life, your brain will do whatever it takes to keep that dream alive.
Even if the math says you are failing.
Exactly.
So we actually start hacking our own perception to keep the dream intact. Like, we start blocking out anything that threatens the yacht.
We do. And the psychology here gets incredibly granular. Because the fantasy of the big win is so intoxicating, the brain goes on the defensive to protect it from reality.
Protecting the fantasy.
Right. This mechanism is called selective perception or selective exclusion.
Meaning we are actively excluding reality. We're choosing what parts of the world we want to acknowledge.
Literally. When you deeply believe a trade is the one that's going to make you rich, your brain begins filtering incoming information in real time.
Just filtering it out.
Yeah, you'll sit there staring at the ticker, and you will only consciously register the market ticks that move in your favor.
So if the stock blips up a few cents,
Your brain highlights it, neon signs and all. It confirms your genius. But if the stock drops significantly, your brain will actively suppress those signals.
you just ignore the drop.
You instantly rationalize them away. You call it a temporary dip or market noise or a shakeout by the big institutions.
It's like wearing noise-canceling headphones while walking on train tracks just because you really like the song you're listening to.
That is exactly what it's like.
You're artificially blocking out the sound of the approaching train because you just don't want the music to stop. And as the train gets closer, you just turn the volume up louder.
Yeah. And to understand why we do something so self-destructive, we have to examine how pain functions in an unlimited environment.
Pain. But it's not a physical sensation here.
No. In this context, pain is defined simply as a result of a conflict between your beliefs, what you desperately want to happen, and reality, what the market is actually doing.
A conflict between belief and reality. So cognitive dissonance is literally processed by the trader as pain.
Exactly. The human brain evolved to avoid pain at all costs. It interprets the unfulfilled expectation, the realization that you are wrong and losing money, as an existential threat.
So the brain fights back.
Right. To avoid that intense psychological friction, our minds construct massive defensive walls. We deploy denial, rationalization, and justification.
We block out the threatening information to maintain the pleasant illusion of hope.
We're essentially lying to ourselves to delay the agony of admitting the market isn't going to give us the future we felt entitled to.
I really want to see what this looks like in practice, because knowing the brain filters things is one thing, but watching a trader actually live through this filter has to be brutal.
It is. It's what's referred to as the hope spiral.
The hope spiral.
It's the ultimate tragic manifestation of the unlimited environment trap. It is the step-by-step process of a mind completely detaching from reality.
Okay, let's walk through a scenario for everyone listening.
Sure.
A trader enters a position, they buy a stock at $50, fully expecting it to skyrocket to 100, but it doesn't. It starts to bleed. It drops to 45, then 40. In a casino, you place a bet, the roulette ball lands on the wrong color, the dealer sweeps your chips away, and the hand is decisively over. You are forced to accept the loss and move on.
But here, the market is just open. The numbers are just flashing red.
So what do?
Instead of exiting the trade and accepting a small, manageable loss, the trader retreats into their imagination. As the market moves further and further away from their target, their mental defenses kick into overdrive.
Because the pain of taking the loss at 40 is just too high.
Yes. So they convince themselves it'll bounce back to 50.
And they don't just sit there passively staring at a red screen, right? They actively hunt down false evidence to support their delusion.
Oh, absolutely. They will scour the internet, dig through obscure forums, check every alternative news site gathering only the data that supports a reversal.
Wow. So if 100 professional analysts release reports saying the company is bankrupt, but one random anonymous blog post says a secret merger is happening,
They will lock onto that single blog post like a life raft.
they give it equal or greater weight than the overwhelming reality of the loss.
They are frantically feeding the illusion because the alternative is accepting the pain of failure. But the market has no limits. It can keep moving against them forever.
It doesn't care about the blog post.
And it doesn't care about their feelings. It will consume their entire net worth if they let it.
So if the brain is this good at filtering out bad news, how does the spiral actually end? Like, does the bubble just pop on its own? Or does the trader only exit when their bank account literally hits zero?
It often drains the account entirely. But psychologically, the exit happens when the magnitude of the loss becomes so completely overwhelming that the pain of staying in the trade finally exceeds the pain of admitting failure.
Let that sink in. You only stop the bleeding when staying in the trade hurts worse than the devastation of admitting you were entirely wrong.
It triggers a moment of forced awareness. The cognitive dissonance becomes so massive that the brain's defense mechanisms simply snap.
Like a physical shock.
It hits the trader like a sudden physical shock. The illusion breaks all at once, the noise-canceling headphones get ripped off, and the train is 2 feet away.
That has to be traumatic.
It is a deeply traumatic psychological event. The trader is left staring at the wreckage of their account, completely bewildered as to how they let it get so bad.
And it all happens because they allowed the unlimited environment to dictate their behavior rather than imposing their own limits.
Precisely.
Does this happen to everyone? I feel like a rational person, someone who is disciplined in their everyday life, maybe a doctor or an engineer, They'd recognize the red flags, right?
You'd think so, but anyone can fall into this trap,
Mhm.
regardless of their intelligence or profession.
Mm.
But there is one specific condition that magnifies this psychological trap tenfold.
What's that?
It comes down to the emotional baggage a person brings into that unlimited environment.
Ah, we are talking about scared money.
Yes.
Trading with capital that has a heavy emotional or survival attachment to it.
Trading scared money is the cardinal sin. This is the error of trading with money you actively need for basic survival. It's the rent money. It's the grocery budget.
Or funds set aside for a kid's tuition.
Exactly.
See, I've always believed that pressure creates diamonds. If my back is against the wall, I'm going to hyper-focus. I would assume that if my rent is on the line, I'm going to be sharper, more alert, and make the absolute best decisions because the stakes are real.
That's a very common assumption.
Why does having skin in the game actually make us blind?
Because the biological pressure to survive artificially skyrockets the psychological need to be right.
Okay.
When the stakes are tied to your physical shelter or your family's well-being, you literally cannot afford to lose. Your brain registers a potential loss not just as an ego hit, but as an actual threat to your survival.
And because you can't afford to lose, selective perception goes into maximum overdrive.
Yes. You are so utterly terrified of the reality of losing your rent money that your brain completely blocks out the fact that you are actively losing it. You freeze.
Which leads to the most common fatal mistake in the entire trading world, removing the stop loss.
The absolute worst thing you can do.
For anyone unfamiliar, a stop loss is an automatic safety net. You tell your broker, if this stop drops to $45, sell it immediately. It's a pre-programmed escape hatch.
Right.
But when a trader is operating with scared money and the price starts creeping dangerously close to that safety net, they log in and move it.
They cancel the order.
They change their safety parameters mid-fall simply because they believe the market is about to turn around and they cannot stomach locking in the loss.
It is the ultimate act of self-sabotage driven by fear.
It's like jumping out of an airplane, feeling the wind rushing past you, pulling the ripcord, and then suddenly saying, wait, let me just stuff the parachute back into the bag for a few more seconds. I'm pretty sure an updraft is coming to carry me back up.
That's exactly it.
It's absolute madness. But in that moment, to the terrified trader, it feels like a perfectly logical way to avoid the pain of realizing a loss.
Right. So if the market has no walls, no floors, and no rules to protect you, and our brains are literally hardwired to deceive us when money, ego, and survival are on the line, how does a person actually navigate this space?
How do you operate in an environment with no limits without destroying yourself?
The answer is surprisingly simple in theory, but incredibly agonizing to execute. The only way to survive an environment with no limits is to artificially build the limits yourself.
You have to become the casino house, the pit boss, and the dealer for your own mind.
Yes, you have to reclaim control from the environment, and the most critical, non-negotiable application of this is that you must predefine your limit.
Meaning you have to decide exactly how much money you are willing to risk before the trade even begins.
Before you even click the buy button.
Long before.
Because once you are in the trade, your brain is already compromised. As soon as your capital is deployed in the market, the hope, the fear, the ego, the selective perception, it all instantly boots up.
You cannot trust your own judgment once you're inside the unlimited environment.
Exactly. The boundary must be set beforehand in cold, rational blood, while you are still observing the market objectively.
And this is where the discipline of the stop-loss habit comes in.
Yes. The absolute rule is never enter a trade without a hard stop-loss already in place.
Because this simple mechanical action provides the definitive limit that the market naturally lacks. It artificially creates the safety of the casino's physical chips.
Precisely.
If I only push $500 in chips onto the blackjack table, I can only lose $500. The automated stop-loss does the exact same thing for a stock. It turns an unbounded risk into a strictly bounded one.
And by cementing this habit, you are shifting your entire psychological framework. You are forcing your brain to evaluate risk versus fantasy.
You are demanding that your decisions be based on the actual force of the market.
The measurable consistency of the buyers and sellers, rather than your internal need for money or validation.
Because the market is completely indifferent to your rent being due.
It doesn't care about your yacht fantasy or your ego. It only responds to supply and demand. Imposing a stop loss is an act of surrendering to that reality.
There is a reality check we uncovered in these sources that serves as the ultimate grounding mechanism for anyone operating in a high-stakes environment. It's like a circuit breaker for all of this cognitive dissonance.
It is the single most important question a trader can ask themselves when they feel that anxiety creeping in.
You have to literally stop, look away from the flashing numbers, look back at the screen, and ask yourself out loud, am I seeing what is happening, or am I seeing what I hope will happen?
It's powerful. By forcing yourself to articulate that question, you are actively dragging your consciousness out of the idealized future fantasy and slamming it back into the present reality.
You are demanding that your brain acknowledge the raw, unfiltered data on the screen rather than the soothing, noise-canceling song it wants to hear.
It forces you to confront the selective exclusion head-on.
Am I seeing what is happening, or am I seeing what I hope will happen? It strips away all the blog posts and the rationalizations.
It does.
So pulling all these threads together for everyone listening, the core takeaway here is a fundamental shift in how we view boundaries.
The foundation is recognizing that an unlimited environment is not a playground of endless opportunity. It is a profound psychological danger zone.
Fantasies of the big win are the primary catalyst for catastrophic losses. Not because having goals is bad, but because that specific fantasy blinds you to present moment risk.
And triggers your brain to actively filter out reality.
And if you rely on your natural instincts, your brain will actively gather false evidence. It will happily ignore glaring red flags to keep you suspended in that hope spiral.
Right up until the moment of forced awareness, when the mathematical loss is so massive it destroys you.
Which leaves us with the absolute necessity of self-imposed structure. The only way to see the market objectively and to operate without being paralyzed by fear is to take full responsibility for your own boundaries.
You must impose strict limits, predefine your risk in cold blood, and use hard stop losses to protect yourself from your own evolutionary psychology.
It's about building your own guardrails before you walk anywhere near the edge of the cliff. Because the market certainly isn't going to build them for you. It will just let you fall.
The environment will take whatever you are willing to give it.
Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over today. We've spent this entire deep dive analyzing the psychology of financial trading, but human nature is universal.
Very true.
The brain doesn't just filter out bad news when there's a ticker symbol attached to it. If human psychology is naturally wired to filter out painful realities to protect the pleasant illusion of a big win, where else in your life are you operating without a stop loss?
Oh, that's a heavy question.
Think about it. Maybe it's a failing relationship you keep making excuses for, gathering tiny crumbs of false evidence that things are getting better.
Or maybe it's a dead-end career path you keep suffering through, hoping it will magically turn into your dream job.
Are you quietly ignoring the massive red flags right now, absorbing constant damage just because you are addicted to the fantasy of how good it could be?
That is the real challenge of the unlimited environment, knowing when to pull the cord.
Something to think about next time you catch yourself hoping, instead of looking at what's actually happening. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.